Hello, everyone. Welcome to Take It Easy. I'm Alexandra Martinez. You can call me Alex. I have over 8 years of experience in IT, and I'm a software engineer/slash developer. Here with me is Lucia Gallegos. She's a registered psychotherapist based in Toronto, Canada, and she's ready to learn more about the IT industry with us. In today's episode, we will be hearing from Pamela Rodriguez. She has over 10 years of experience in front end and interface design. She's a co founder and host of the Women Who Code Monterey podcast and a co host of the No Me Hagas Leer podcast. Let's get started. All right, so let's get started with the episode. Pam, do you have some horror stories for us today?
Well, this is from one of my last jobs at in Monterrey in Mexico. I gotta admit that this job started perfect, and this is why this story got to me, like what happens in this story, because I loved this job. It went on for 4 years with me loving it, absolutely loving it. It was one of those companies that told you that they were family, and you know that, Alex. Their family. They get you pizzas and you work, but what I loved about this job was that they actually kept their promises on family work balance. I would never get have to um, put in extra hours. I would not feel that burnout that I was so used to in other companies. So yeah, what I was like, yeah, this company rocks. I want to work here forever because I was so enjoying my job and really just enjoying what I was doing. I'm not gonna tell you that it was 100% perfect because it wasn't. There were always guys that I had to fight, and like we were fighting over resources, over the projects, etc. But it's very hard. It's very different when you fight your peers than when you're actually fighting management, because that's a lot more conflictive. And so I could live with that. And eventually, they, like 4 years into me working in this company, they hired this guy that started to change a lot of things. Things had already started changing, to be honest. I was just trying to ignore it. There had been drastic changes in management, and people were starting to work late hours and stuff like that I didn't like. But then the arrival of this guy sort of solidified it, because he was everything that we don't like in a misogynistic company. He would we would talk to him, we would plan the projects, and just to clarify, he had uh, a higher status in the company than I did, so it was hard fighting against this. Um, we would plan a project, for example, and talk to him, and then we would all settle in a time lapse, a schedule, pricing, etc. But he would work such long hours. He would work from 6 a.m. to like 12 in the morning, and so he around 8 9 p.m. he would call the client and agree on stuff that we hadn't talked about, and then the project would be horribly delayed. And just to avoid those delays, people would work weekends and Sundays and holidays. And just to clarify, I was trying to give this guy the what we call the benefit of the doubt, because this is one of those guys that you meet and immediately don't like. And I hate that about myself, because I would normally prejudge people. I know myself. So I was like, no, no, Pamela, don't go with your judgments. Just sort of try and get to know him. But he would do stuff like talk, say bad stuff about his ex-wife to us, even though we didn't really know her. And I don't know. I've always really hated people talking, saying bad stuff about their partners or ex-partners even at the office. Like that's not the place. He would even talk about his ex-wife during meetings with the client, and I would be like, man, that this is really not the place. But
Oh,
what really made me hate him. And I know hate is a very strong word, but that's how I felt for a long time. Um, was that one this girl that is to this day is one of my closest friends. We weren't really on speaking terms back then, not because I hated her or anything. We just hadn't spoken that much, other than work stuff. She called me aside and asked me to give her feedback about her job, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I told her stuff that she did well, and I told her stuff that she could improve on, feedback. And then she was really upset because not at me, but she was sort of relieved and upset, and she confessed that this guy had told her to ask other people for feedback, but the feedback that he had given her was that she wasn't friendly enough, and she had to smile more at him. And uh, and I was like, this is in no way related to your job. You can't just glare at me and just do your job, and I'll still like you because you're doing your job the right way.
Yeah.
Oh my God. There's little stuff that I hate more than people telling me to smile more. And that is weird because I'm someone that's always laughing things off. Like that's my MO. Like if something is making me nervous, I sort of joke around or laugh or something because I don't know what else to do, and that's how I respond. She's not like that, and so she would just sit there and glare at him, and he would that's what he would tell her, like, you should smile more. And of course, that started me not smiling at him. So there it would be very uncomfortable. He straight up asked me if I didn't like him, and I've always been very open about this because I mean, I would never talk about someone behind their back and then not own up to it. So I was like, yeah, I don't like you, but it's not like I have reasons. Let me give you those reasons. And he would never listen to you. It's and this went on for a year. And I know I maybe put up with a lot, but this job meant a lot to me. So it it started to take a lot out of me to sort of deal with this situation. So yeah, I mean, long story short, I quit. And I quit because of him, and I said I was quitting because of him. And they even told me that this was probably all in my head. I just didn't know how to work with people like him. He was different. I should make an effort to understand where he's coming from. Pamela, you're just so impatient. And you have no idea how many times someone has told me that. You're just impatient. You don't know how to deal with people like him. You're not understanding him properly. And I'm like, I'm afraid you're not understanding him properly.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow,
It's a bit
yeah,
that was
yeah.
a bit long, I'm sorry, but
Whew.
Wow, I've heard so many times about guys or managers asking women to smile more in the workplace. So I don't feel like this is the first time that I've heard this. I don't know if it's only in IT, but it's pretty common in IT to hear that.
I,
yeah.
I, I'm in shock. I mean, um, and well, yes, I'm kind of still trying to identify this story, and also because kind of not only what this kind of like the way this person is kind of acting or behaving, but also kind of impressed on how people around him are kind of telling
Oh
you,
yeah.
Pam, like, oh no, try to understand him. Like, how do you mean? Is there a manual on how to, like, I guess it's like you versus the world.
Yeah, it sort of feels that way most of the time because and this is something else they people have told me not only in that job but in life. They've told me that I have a very childish sense of justice. And that okay, what is childish about wanting people to behave justly. I don't understand this phrase.
Yeah, like people to behave like adults.
Yeah, and that's childish, I guess, to not want people to step over others to gain what they want.
Yeah, it's more like, okay, be quiet and smile. That's it, and do whatever you have to do, and just do not. Because I mean, if we got and think more about children, they're really honest,
Yeah,
and
I think it's something
yeah,
we lose, right? With age.
absolutely. Yeah, and because we have to behave in a certain way, we have to belong to a certain category. Do not try to go against other people because they're going to create that conflict, and it's kind of like seeing this behavior or this way to probably, I mean, you're asking like a valid question, like why do I have to smile to this person if I don't want to smile to this person, and that does not it's not related to your job or to the things that you do. But I find that really aggressive and horrible. Horrifying, I would say. I think is the word, right? Like, and you say also, Alex, that is kind of common in the IT environment to ask only women or also men to kind of smile more. That sounds even like scary. You know, like the Joker. Like I don't know, things like smile.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot, and no, only women. I guess like if men don't smile, it's not considered to be unfriendly. It's more like, oh, he's just serious, or
Hmm.
he's just focused on his work or stuff like that. But if women don't smile, we're told that we'll never achieve anything by not smiling because we need to have like that personality trait or whatever in which we have to be friendly and will look like we're not aggressive and we're not bad people or stuff like that. And even with like stuff like what are you wearing to the office, for example, if you're wearing a sweater or a hoodie, it's also not something that a woman should use, should wear, because then it's just like are you like depressed or are you
Oh
okay? But then if men use it, it's okay because they're just not formal people and that's it.
Oh, and how do you feel towards that? And how do you? I mean, Pam, like what I'm hearing is, what I was hearing, I was feeling frustrated. Like what?
Well, that was pretty much how I was feeling.
Yeah, right. I mean, you and also because when you were telling this story, you said in the beginning you were so happy working there, and also you got pizza. I think there is something between pizza and IT. Because
Yes, yes.
yeah, something there related that I
All the time.
all the time.
I mean,
So
it was
mhm.
at least where I worked, it was something that united us all, like our intense love of food. Everyone like it was something that we had that was sort of family like if you have during the weekend you have had a cake for some reason and you have half that cake left over, that half of a cake you would bring it to the office and I would be like, oh, I thought of you guys would
Mm.
love this cake. And there was always food in the kitchen because that was sort of the mindset, like let's share food all the time. So it became part of why I liked working there because I felt connected to these people. So it also got to me how these people became affected by what this guy was doing because their families started complaining because they would stay very late hours at the office. Uh, there were the girls and boys that weren't in a relationship. Some of them would complain that they didn't have time to go out with people. And I mean, this was sort of what the job represented in the beginning for me, that they respected our lives, and that stopped being the case.
And it was a huge change. I mean, like you say, it seems like it was a nice like a place where to work, and suddenly another person comes. And also, what I find interesting is how he also spoke about his wife, in what I understand, in not only at work but also with the client. That's a really huge red flag.
Yeah,
Like huge.
and again, I would go to people that I thought I could trust from the management and tell them like, I don't think this is a good image, not only for him, for the company, that he's speaking ill of his ex-wife in front of the client or during a meeting. Like that, the client doesn't need to hear that.
And I'm curious, what was the answer?
Oh, you know how he is. Just talk to him. And I'm like, do you really think I didn't try that? If I'm here with you, it's because he's not listening.
Whoa, that's I don't know what if it's more impressive, his behavior or how the other people were seeing something like kind of, I don't want to use the word normal, but more like meh. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what's happening, right? It's like he's going beyond. There is boundaries as well, and yeah, I'm impressed. Is that kind of common in these in these areas? Like kind of, it's not, there is a big elephant in the room and it's like no one talking about it, or like ignoring it, or saying like, nah, I don't know. I get that impression, but I wonder if that's something common.
Yeah, I mean, to my experience, it's horribly common. And just to be clear, because we're this job was in Mexico.
Mm.
And just, I don't know if you guys have talked about this in the past, but Mexico doesn't have laws that avoid
Yeah.
sexism. So a lot of what this guy has told me in the past could have been avoided to going to HR. And in Mexico, that doesn't happen. Plus, this
Mm.
company didn't have HR. And I know this is
Oh,
probably something that
what?
sounds outrageous, but at the beginning, it was like, no, we don't need HR. We're all friends. We're all family. We all trust each other. And
Oh.
then, yeah, and then we didn't see it as a big deal because we had never really needed HR. But then we suddenly needed it, and there was none.
Whoa, that's I mean, and when you're saying like okay, maybe it's like a family, but keep in mind that family, as I mean, family members, they also have really big challenges. Um, so it's expected that at a certain point in a company, even though they might feel like a family, some challenges might come as well. And seems like in this case there was not anyone who could address this properly. And also talking that we were talking about Mexico, so that's a huge thing. Like things are kind of managed in a different way over there. So yeah, I guess. And in this case, it was you who had to make the decision to kind of leave the company.
Well, yeah, because it had become unmanageable.
Mm.
One of the last things I talked to about with this guy, like that was really outrageous to me, was that he had this plan to make sort of a internship program for women from the city, from Mexico City. And he was like, yeah, we could pay them less because they're interns. And I'm like, dude,
Oh
what?
my, wow.
And I was like, that's not gonna look good. And he's like, yeah, that's why I'm talking to you about this, because you're women who code and you can sort of sell this. I'm like, are you serious? Do you
Whoa.
think I'm gonna want to sell this to anyone?
Oh, that's oh yeah, that's challenging. I mean, I wonder how it was for you to, because you said like at the beginning you felt comfortable working there, and suddenly there is one person that changes the rules and how the game is. So how was that? Like, I'm just curious to know, like, knowing that before you felt comfortable, and there was a point that you just have to leave?
It was such a feeling of betrayal, that a feeling of
Mm.
betrayal that I had not felt at a job, especially because I had been in jobs where stuff went the wrong way, but I sort of just got angry, and I'm not saying that because I had lived through harsher stuff in other jobs, but what happened here actually got to me personally because I thought I could trust these people, and turned out that that's actually how I found out about the management shift, because I trusted the people that were no longer in power. And I didn't know that. I When I talked to them, they were like, "Yeah, but they're not listening to me." I'm like, "They're not listening to you?" But weren't you like the person that decided stuff? Who's they?
Oh, yeah, this is a horror story. I guess one of those stories that you just cannot sleep at night thinking, what's happening here?
Yeah, it definitely got me even out of work hours. And my husband has since previous jobs has always been the voice of reason because he's not inside all of that mess, and he would be like, if it's getting to you this much, you should quit.
I
And-
see, yeah. Mental health is first, and physical health.
yeah, but sometimes that's not my go-to option. Like, I want
Yeah,
to fix things.
yeah,
And he'll
yeah,
be
yeah,
like,
yeah.
why?
Oh, that's challenging. That's definitely challenging.
I wonder how many women have had to resign their jobs just because there was someone that they couldn't stand and no one did anything
Mm.
about it.
Yeah, at least
Oh.
in this particular company, a lot of people resigned directly or indirectly because of this.
Oh, and still like and that's a good question, Alex, right? Like it's not only how it's affecting the company, but also how it's affecting the people and how they feel around. And because I'm hearing that there is no weight or there is no opportunity to raise your voice.
Yeah.
Um, because it's like, yeah, I mean, let me just write down in my invisible typing right like and I will take care of it. It sounds like, yeah. But I'm also wondering is because even though in your story, Pam, that is terrifying, and you were able to go on and speak up and tell your side, and the answer was no positive at all. But I wonder also the case where the company might go against you, or like I'm just thinking like what happens when they see you as the that's the troublemaker. Let's do something against.
Well, it was actually the case, and
Okay.
that's something I didn't realize until I was way out of the company, like
Mm.
time after I left, because another thing that happened was that there was I was in the design part of the projects, and there wasn't a lot of people that were in that sector, and the other girl that was more or less in my position would always be swamped with work. Like, she would always complain that she could not deal with what she was handling. On the other hand, my responsibilities started to dwindle. Like, towards the end of me being in the company, I didn't have anything to do there. Like, there I would just go and sort of watch tutorials and use my
Mm.
time because I didn't have projects. And I would talk to them, and I was like, why is this girl like swamped with work? Why can't I do some of what she's doing instead of just killing her with work? Why do I not have anything? Like, if you don't want me to handle projects, then tell me, like, what am I doing wrong? And they would never own up to it. And I sort of put it in the back of my mind. But then I heard that happening to others. They would sort of kick you out that way because they
Oh.
they they made you feel like you were losing your time being there because you were not
Mm.
growing, you were not in any projects. And that was sort of their MO towards that. And I hadn't seen it that way when I was there, though in hindsight, it's sort of obvious.
Mm. Yeah, because that's really passive aggressive.
Yeah. They were trying not to pay severance, I guess.
Whew. And it's like you say, probably really challenging to see it once you're there already. And once you had the opportunity to see it from the other side, you realize like, oh, okay, that's what was happening.
That was yeah.
Yeah. Like, oh, yeah, that's really aggressive.
I guess it's kind of like when you're in a relationship that you
Yeah.
don't know like what's going on and you feel like you just want to make it work, and then after it's done, you realize everything that was wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And really passive aggressive, like, no, it's not me, it's you. Pretty similar, right? Like seems also like kind of maybe a little in what is called like gaslighting. That this term of like they make you somehow believe certain things somehow in order to manipulate you, and that also happens in toxic relationships. So it sounds like a really yeah, in a way that they can control you. In yes, it is scary, this world.
Yeah.
And that's where the pizza comes. It's like, hey, you don't have any time to see your family and I'm not paying you extra hours, but hey, here's some pizza.
Yeah.
So basically, it's like they are conditioning you. Here, I mean, here is the pizza. However, the price is going to be this one, and you're not going to be able to see your family. Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the price to pay.
Yeah,
That's
plus
scary.
there's a lot of people that would be like, well, I didn't have a lot of things to do at home, and but I would always maintain that if the only thing that you have to go do at home is lie down and scratch your belly, that's important.
Yes, completely. That's yeah, it's part of the, and it's like a having a balance in like this work-life balance, and definitely, I mean, you don't want to burn out because once you're burnout or you don't feel comfortable working in a company, that's it. I mean, you don't have that energy to continue. And it's like hard work. It's like being connected 24/7. And we are not machines. Just keep in mind. I mean,
Yeah.
we get burnout, and it's once we're there, one, it's really challenging to identify it. And number two, it's really difficult not to continue in that cycle. So it takes energy as well to kind of not feeling burnout. So it's kind of a horrible cycle.
And even like right now in the COVID world, it's even more notorious because technically you don't have anything to do. If you don't have
Mm.
hobbies or if you don't have like a project, a personal project, then you just have to watch TV or play video games or listen to music or read books. And it can be considered as doing nothing. So a lot of people
Oh.
right now are feeling like, well, if I can do some extra work, even if I'm not getting paid, at least I'm doing something.
Okay, help me to understand that because I see that a lot in at work, and people saying that you spend longer hours working because like what you said is like doing nothing, and understanding doing nothing as doing something that you enjoy, whatever it is kind of considered as not being one, that you don't have like a personal life, and two, that you have to be connected 24/7. Where does that come from?
Probably we sort of demonize a lot the idea of not doing anything productive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think productive is a key word.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like probably understood as being productive is kind of close to burnout, not having time to rest and product, like in order to be productive, kind of feeling that energy to do that. Resting is also important, but I think nowadays is not even. I mean, I have heard conversations where people kind of the conversation is who has worked more hours in the past week, and I always lose. Like, no. But I'm so kind of impressed to hear that it's kind of achieving, doing more, and 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 that's, I mean, it is exhausting. And do we really want to do that for the next couple of years at that level, at that rhythm? Oh my, I feel exhausted already.
Just thinking about it.
Just thinking about it. Because like you say, Pam, it's really nice just to be at home doing nothing, just to, and that's fine. Because we have that productivity. But I'm also hearing this and seeing this kind of feeling, probably, I don't know if it's boredom or feeling guilt or feeling like this part of, oh, I might be left behind. And also another thing that I'm hearing from family members or clients is that they are kind of having meetings either too early. I mean, whereas probably pre-COVID era, I mean, meetings normally happen around from 9 to 4, let's say. And now what I'm hearing is like, oh yeah, I mean, they're kind of scheduling meetings early as 8 or late as 7. And I'm like, what? Like, how do you mean? Then you're gonna have a meeting at 2 a.m. with pizza? Like, like that's, I think it's a lot. Where is your life, your personal life? We all have a right to enjoy personal life.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of the thing that these people don't realize, the people that willingly put in extra hours. Like, for example, this guy that I was talking about, he would be sometimes he would even sort of sleep in the office because he would be working
What?
really late. Yeah. And to me, it was always sort of him escaping his life because once I heard him talk about his ex-wife and the big fight that they were having, and I was like, so you just don't want to go back to your house and face that. But the thing is I understand people doing this, what they're running away from, but then what they're doing reflects on others that don't need this escape. And because him being there, he would always say that he was actually committed because he was putting all that extra work and like trying to make it reflect negatively on us because we were not doing the same thing.
Oh my, yeah, 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 yeah. And so, yeah, yeah, and that's, yeah, it's horrible because I mean, he, like you say, he's escaping. He was kind of escaping from his life, and and all of you got a life, right? So it's,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, uh, but that's so. I don't know. I'm hearing that, and I feel kind of, uh, well, kind of even. I'm trying to probably feel compassion towards this guy, and compassion understood as, wow, he's in really in pain. However, that's something he has to figure out, and it's not the job of other people to kind of uh, fix his life. And it seems like he was trying to avoid anything not related to work through work, but it's like trying to fill out a bag with a hole. That's never going to be filled, and everyone at the office is going to be burned out.
Yeah. And everyone was.
And every yeah, seems like everyone was.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot about that kind of situations, and I've even witnessed them, where one person stays late at the office or works more hours than the rest of them, but then they people always assume that the person working the most is the person that's working most. Like if I'm explaining this myself. So if let's say that you had a task that was supposed to be done in 4 hours, and then a person actually finishes the task in 4 hours, but then another person has to take 8 hours to finish that same task. And people normally think that the person that spent 8 hours doing the task was the one that worked most. But that's not true because the other person was more efficient by doing it in 4 hours instead of 8 hours. But then people just see the number of hours that you're working and not the kind of work that you're delivering.
Yeah, and this was something that we had at the beginning at that company, that they were like, we don't care how many hours you work. You can leave here at 3 p.m. We don't care. If you finished, you finished. That's it. And then towards the end, they would be like, did you see him leave at 5 o'clock on the dot? And I was like, yeah, but I don't know what he's working on. He probably finished and could leave. Uh, it was just something that it was hard for me to wrap my head around at the end.
Yeah, and that kind of I don't and probably I remember when when we were working in Mexico in a company, not as a psychotherapist at that time, and yeah, I got the sense of if I was able to live out my time, and once my supervisor asked me, like, I know probably you already finished, however, try to stay like 10 to 15 minutes more, so it looks good on you. And I'm like, what? Are we here working or are we here just to kind of pretend something? But that's kind of, I don't know how things are like in the US or in Canada in terms of working for a company, because I'm my own boss now. So in this case, I'm my own supervisor, and but I wonder if that's still the same case here, or how is for instance in the US and Pam.
Well, I I right
Not
now I
easy
don't
word answer.
right now I don't have a job. I do see it in my husband that
Hmm.
they don't really check the time, though they also don't like what Alex was what well you were saying of the meetings being scheduled without sort of leveraging the fact that you don't have to commute. I've seen that
Hmm. Hmm.
in terms that there's I sometimes hear him talking like later than I would expect. I don't know. I think it's also affect it. This whole COVID situation has affected it so much that I don't even know if I have a clear image of how it's working.
Yeah, and then I guess people assume that you don't have anything to do or that you will be at home because you're supposed to be at home. And then they can ask, like, hey, can I call you quickly, like 5 minutes? And then those 5 minutes turn into 30 minutes. And you just stay there working on whatever they're asking you to do. But because you're like, okay, yeah, I'm home, it's only gonna take 5 minutes, and then you go to your computer and take the call, and it ends up being more than 5 minutes.
It always ends up being more than 5 minutes.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. That's frustrating. That is frustrating.
And that's
And,
something that this guy that I was mentioning was doing a lot. Like once, just once, because I didn't let him do it again. We used the same tool, Slack, to communicate in the company that I used to communicate with the girls at Women Who Code. So I was answering some messages from them, the girls at Women Who Code, at 11:30 at night because we found each other and we were talking. And I received a message from him, and I was like, "Nope, it's 11:30. I'm not gonna answer your message." So the next day, I had a meeting with him. He created that meeting the next day, and I was like, "What does he want?" And he wanted to tell me off for not answering. his message.
No.
And I was
No.
like, excuse me? He's like, you were
No.
online. I'm like, yeah, but not for you.
Oh. No, wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh God.
So I had to explain to him that I use Slack for other things.
What?
And he was not entitled to my time at 11:30 at night. I don't know why I have to tell you this.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, hey, I just saw you in the mall. I thought maybe I could come to you and ask you about work.
Exactly.
I saw you at Starbucks and you didn't say hello. Wow. Uh, wow. So now, wow, that's I'm speechless. I don't know what to say here. I mean, I don't, I don't, I don't know. That's that's really challenging. It is your time, and then you have to say hi to the person just because you're online, and then on the top of that, next day you have to explain yourself.
Yeah,
Uh,
because it wasn't even a hi, what are you doing? Because some of the people that become my friends do that. No, he was like, hey, I'm looking at this file that you sent earlier. I'm like, no, that we're not discussing this at 11:30 at night. No.
wow.
Well, something that happens to me is that people send me messages. I don't know if they do it because they see me online or not, but they send me messages sometimes and I can't handle myself. Like I can't just not answer it. I feel like the need that, oh, I just saw that someone messaged me and I feel curious and I see, well, let's see what he or she is telling me. And then I go and see the message and then I feel like, I can answer this right now. So I just answer it right there. I don't know how to stop myself from not answering those messages.
I do something that is I turn off the cell phone or the device because it's challenging. And once you see it or hear it or feel it, if it's like the cell phone is vibrating, it's like that this tendency to go on and check and like you say, probably you say it's one of them 5 minutes, but then at the end of the day, you probably see that it was more than 5 minutes but yeah, I mean, we're kind of used to answer right away. In no, it's that we're used to. It's more like kind of is expected that we answer right away, and and it's okay to say no. It's because if we see it from a biological point of view, it's like our brain is not disconnected from work, and on the top of that, most of the people we are working from home. And that means that the place where we kind of identify as home and a space to relax, at the same time, it's kind of confusing because for the past year, most of us, we're kind of also working and get stressed there. Whereas before, maybe we had more opportunity to be outside, like maybe commuting was a way to kind of be like to separate to be able to set up that boundary. And now it's like it's I have a friend that she wakes up 5 minutes before 9 and she goes directly to the computer. It's like boom. I'm ready. And I mean, but for her it's like, oh, it's also difficult to disconnect at 9 because it's kind of, oh yes, I mean, it's already here, I'm already home, I can continue working, and by the time she notices, it's already 11. and and it's a lot before we kind of have that time to unwind. And now we kind of need to sometimes force ourselves to unwind, and that also counts on me, believe me. I have to like, okay, schedule time, like, yeah, no, I have to disconnect from this because otherwise for the brain is we're kind of ready to fight on flight 24/7.
So I have some questions about this guy.
Go ahead.
I wonder where the guy is now.
Yeah, I wonder. Now I'm
He's still
wondering.
there.
Oh,
All right.
really?
Yeah, he's still
Oh,
there. It's been 3 years. He's still there.
oh,
Wow. So I want to have like a better image because I don't know if like from a generational point of view, is he a millennial or like more of a boomer or
I think he was just 3 years older than me. He's like, no, wait, I'm 34. He's around 40,
Hmm.
like 6 years older than me. So I don't know what that generation is, but it's not a boomer.
no, it's an
Hmm.
X, Gen X. Yeah, I asked because it's curious that he was speaking bad about his ex-wife all the time.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. That's a very boomer thing to do.
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't know. I don't like people that talk that way about their partners.
Yeah, no, they're supposed to be your best friend. Why would you do that?
Exactly.
Yeah. And like you say, right? Like my woman, my kind of like an object,
Yeah.
like my.
And it's even a step farther than that because I mean this is in English, but I hate that phrase "mi vieja." I hate it. I
Oh
hate it with a
yeah, yeah,
passion.
yeah,
Like my old lady.
yeah.
Yeah, but
Kind
it's
of.
weird. It's weird because it doesn't really translate.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It's
The
one of those
intention.
weird Mexican slangs that we have, and I don't like it either. It's like so, like, oh, yeah.
It's
It's
like
kind.
demeaning a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I totally agree. And still, many people using it back home.
And Pam, what would you say to yourself in that position? If you knew everything that you know right now, what would you say to yourself when you were just meeting this guy?
Uh, I would probably just quit right there because I know it. There's nothing like looking back on it because I do this a lot. Like I look back on what I've done. I'm like, I should have done this and I should have said this other thing. But I know there's nothing that I could have done to stop this because when he got there, he wasn't really the catalyst of anything. He was just the thing that made it evident what was happening. So I think it was gonna happen with anyone bad that came after him. The company was already sort of rotting towards
Hmm.
that.
Okay.
So yeah, if I could tell me something, it would be like, hey, you could like quit now and save yourself a lot of mental issues.
You run away.
Run.
That's so sad. And but so do you think that the company would still like you would have resigned eventually?
Yeah, I just think that it would have probably taken longer if it hadn't been so evident through
Hmm.
him because he
Mm,
made the things worse really fast. And that's how I saw that behind him there was a lot of he had a lot of backup and that backup cannot be ignored. It wasn't just him. He wasn't the owner or an associate. He wasn't anything like that. So I cannot really blame him for the road that the company took.
Hmm.
I can just blame him for being him, a horrible misogynistic person. But if the company had still been a good company, and I think I mentioned this to you, Alex, before when I sort of went through the story really quickly. But before this guy, they actually hired another girl for another kind of thing. She was a project manager. She was sort of like him. Like she would yell at people when she
Oh.
was mad, and she would say inappropriate stuff like talk about her sex life with the clients or really loudly in the kitchen. And we were like, we cannot work with this woman. And we eventually the company saw it and they fired her and we were all like, yes, they listen to us.
Mhm.
But now when afterwards when we were faced with this guy who was basically the male version of this woman, I was like, well, then they just fired her because it's easier to spot a crazy woman than to spot a crazy man
Hmm.
because a crazy man is just a very driven man and a crazy
Hmm.
woman is a crazy woman. And by the way, I'm not saying that she shouldn't have been fired. She should have been fired by all means. But then he should have been too. And that's the injustice of it. And I
So
even
seems
mentioned this to one of the owners, and he was like, "No, it's not the same. That other girl was really loud." I'm like, "Oh, so since he's discreet about it, he's discreetly misogynistic, then that's okay." They
oh wow.
they sort of never knew what to tell me.
Whoa. And I wonder also if that kind of position normally, like this type of personality, because seems like they both kind of share some similarities in personality. Not sure if they're probably also narcissistics. I'm not really sure, but I'm also kind of thinking. Um, but I
Oh yeah.
wonder also if the position like has to do with it, like kind of the people they're like attracting, and maybe not unconsciously, because like you say, right, they want results, and on the one hand, in this person, I mean, both kind of having a lot of area like growth opportunity, but knowing that if this, like you say, like when you kind of spoke about why the person that, I mean, why the woman left and why not him, and they told you because she was louder. Uh, that's yeah. That's not an answer that you want to kind of.
Yeah, no, that wasn't the right answer.
Well, you probably have told this to yourself already, but I want to tell you that it wasn't your fault. And I'm just glad that you're not around those people anymore. I think your husband was right. It was just not healthy. And I'm glad that you resigned. Um, of course, I would be happier if they would have fired the guy and then just found someone that would fit the profile without being a bad person. Um, but I guess the best thing that you can do is to take care of yourself. If you can't really control the circumstances that are external to you, and if you did everything that you could, like to speak up and to go to someone that was kind of HR because you didn't have HR, um, I guess that's just the best that you can do in a situation like that. So I, I'm not saying that you feel guilty, but you don't have to feel guilty about resigning or about not doing enough or stuff like that, because it wasn't your fault at all and you were not in control at all. So I'm just glad that you're safe.
Mhm.
Thanks. Yeah, I think anyone should take that as the red flag of when someone says that we're not a company, we're family. That never ends well.
Keep in mind the Godfather. If someone tells you this is a family, run. I mean, be careful. Run away. Family, mostly one characteristics. All families, they also have their challenge. So it's a wise, it's a wise way to put it, Pam.
Yeah.
I think you can never really call a business a family because if it's a business, then you have to take decisions like to fire people or to replace people, and you have to take care of the company first. So I don't think that you can truly 100% trust people in a company because at the end of the day, they're gonna choose their job or the company before you. And I'm not saying that you don't have any friends, you can, but like if the company has any like money cuts, they're gonna fire people, even though they're kind of like a family. Um, so I guess what I'm trying to say is like, yeah, you can have a good time and you can treat these people like your family, but never forget that it's still a business and we're still in a capitalist world and we have to take care of ourselves. So don't don't assume that they're gonna choose you over the business because they're never gonna do that. They're never gonna go broke just because they want to see you happy. That's never gonna happen. But yeah, you can try your best to uh, have fun with those people and maybe continue being friends after you're done with the company and all that kind of stuff. Just don't take it personally if they fire you, or they don't have to take it personally if you resign. um, so yeah, I guess just be careful with that and take care of yourself first.
That's a good point, Alex. That's indeed.
All right. So anything that you want to tell the people that are listening? Maybe someone that is in your situation, Pam?
If you're in that situation, you should I always maintain that it's a good thing to maintain communication. So try and talk to people. Like I would not have a I don't like just going around and talking to others like, ah, this guy is being horrible. Like, oh, never say stuff like that if you're not gonna own up to it. So I think the main thing is do everything you can so that you don't feel bad afterwards and feel like you don't try it, like you don't try it, especially if the job is important to you. Um, I think I would have had some regrets if I hadn't tried to talk to people and tell them what was happening from my point of view. But once you do that, then don't feel bad if you leave. Like Alex said, the business can fire you and you can quit, and that's not personal. And in the case of this company, they did take it personal. I know that they didn't maintain a good image of me, but it doesn't haunt me because I know I didn't do anything bad. I just tried until the end and then I left because I have a life and I have a mental health that to maintain. And yeah, really just what you said, Alex. Don't blame yourself for things that happen because there's there's more happening around you than just your feelings.
Lucia, do you have something to add?
Yeah, just like keep in mind that again, it's a company. Sometimes, yeah, things are not personal. Also, identify red flags, boundaries. We can always be assertive, and being assertive is identify when to say no and when to say yes, when to negotiate. And important thing, if we don't set up those boundaries, no one is going to do that for us. If you decide like not to kind of like be gentle with the other person, and I don't want to say they use the word gentle, but I try to not to set up the boundary because you're afraid of be described as someone negative, then the price to pay is going to be how you feel towards that and probably disappointed of yourself. In mind, this is I think I enjoyed this talk and thank you for the horror story. Like I kind of picturing this guy send you a message at 11 p.m. That's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned something very nice. The boundaries. I think we do have to be assertive and put our boundaries, and we have to think about our mental health and put the boundaries that we need. Unfortunately, I know that there are some companies that don't let you have any boundaries just because they want to continue to abuse you every time that they want. But yeah, it's something that definitely, if you're feeling abused or if you're feeling burned out, you have to think about what boundaries you need to set so you can stay on that company or leave that company and go to another one. But unfortunately, a lot of the companies are very similar, so it's better to try to focus on yourself and not just hop from company to company.
That's a good point, Alex. That's a good point.
All right. So I guess that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much, Pamela, for the beautiful horror story.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, no worries. And I guess the thing to remember is never say mi vieja to your wife.
Please don't.
No, don't do that, please.